YouTubers, and welcome to Season 7. We've got the Yambulance over there looking absolutely fantastic on this gorgeous evening we have at Strathclyde Country Park. The water is absolutely fantastic, makes you want to get on it, doesn't it? But that's not what we're here for today. We're here for the beginning of Season 7. And what better way to begin the season is to look back at the previous season. So a little bit of a highlight video of just what we went through together as the Yam Squad over the previous season. Hope you enjoy. Oh yeah. We started off last season with a serious dose of variation, because remember, variation is one of the keys to motivation. When travelling from down south in England up north to the motherland in Scotland, you could just have a simple drive through the motorway from A to B, but I decided to take a different route and go from A to B to C to D to E to F. You get the picture. Involved in said detours were some tourist attractions, but also climbing Ben Nevis. But you don't just climb Ben Nevis, you take Bay up there to enjoy the views. Unfortunately, the views weren't as spectacular as they have when I've visited previously, so hopefully we'll be able to go back with Bay and show Bay the views that can be had. On the way up as well, we managed to bump into a lot of the guys that I trained with down south at Leander, and we managed to have a little cycling camp together. So managed to have some fun, get out on the bikes and get some serious training in before the training started up north in Scotland. After maximum variation at the start of the season was had, two massive characters in the vlogs did appear. One being the Lamborghini name yet to be determined, and the other the Yambulance. So the Ambulance started off its life as an old Scottish ambulance and now is fully converted into a tiny home on wheels, and hopefully over the next season we'll be able to see the Ambulance in all its glory. The Lamborghini name yet to be determined, also a huge part of last season, taking me through my entire novice sculling year and hopefully the years into the future as well. Speaking of my novice sculling year, this year was the first year ever in my rowing career where I spent a prolonged period of time training up in Scotland. Usually my training up here is done during holiday breaks or time spent in between going places. But this time, an entire season was planned to train up here in Scotland. So something a little bit different again, a little bit of a change of scenery, but also no longer training by myself, but would be training with the guys and girls on the GB Start program, giving a little bit of that social aspect to training, not just the training part of training. And now on to the training for the season. A lot of Ks were completed both on the water and on the rowing machine, and we saw some gains in fitness, which are really good to see. But the most difficult part of the training last year was the sculling aspect. Again, this was my novice year in sculling where I fully committed to being in a single scull. In my previous years of rowing, I've been in a sweep boat, so I would have had one oar and would always be with at least one person. But this season, it was all about the single scull, where it meant I had two oars and was always training in the boat by myself. Yes, I may have been training with other people, but in the single scull, it's all down to you. Your fitness, your technique, everything you do has an effect on the boat. The real difficulty for me was improving that single sculling technique. So I knew in my head through my experience in rowing what I wanted to do, but the difficulty was actually getting my body to do it. I feel like I've made some great steps forward in the past season, but this next season I know where I need to go, and I know it's going to be no easy feat to get there. So throughout the season, we had some awesome opportunities to get onto the water, whether it was at Auchenstary with some lovely flat glass water that it seemed almost pretty much every time I was on the water it was flat there, or on some lovely choppy water at Strathclyde Park, or the opportunities we had to race throughout this season. We had some great times at trials. Again, the first time I had actually trialed in a single scull. British rowing trial systems means you actually have to trial in a single scull by yourself or in a pair. I've always trialed in pairs, but last season again was my first time trialing in a single. So another opportunity to try something different and see how fast I can go by myself. And then we had the races throughout the year outside of trials. So we had the pieces at the start camps that I was invited to. Great opportunities to battle against the start athletes, to see throughout the year how we can compare against each other, but also the races like Met Regatta and Henley Royal Regatta. Met was a fantastic weekend away. The weather was great. The conditions were good for how I was sculling at the moment, and I ended up coming away with the win at Met Regatta, which was absolutely fantastic. And then we headed obviously to the Henley Royal Regatta, but first, before that, we had to go through qualifiers, which again, I have never actually been to qualifiers in a previous season. Usually the boats I have been in were either pre-qualified or in events that didn't need qualification races. So another change for me, and then the qualifications were to be completed. I did come out with a qualifying spot after the qualifying time trial. The time trial itself was probably, I felt, one of the best rows I had had all season. So timing it well, end of the season, rowing the best I could, and then obviously finishing off the season with Henley Royal Regatta. Again, a completely different experience for me, even though I have spent so much time in Henley on that same stretch of river. I almost know it like the back of my hand. It was a completely different experience. I've rowed at Henley when the booms aren't there. I've rowed at Henley when the booms are there, but I've never rowed there in a single scull. Even pushing off the dock for the first, just getting the legs moving row was just amazing. I had a big smile across my face. Even just, again, I may know the scenery like the back of my hand, but one, seeing it again, I hadn't been to Henley for quite a while, but also just being on there in a single scull rather than usually I would row around Henley in an 8. So the water just seemed very, very different in a single than an 8. And George Bourne beating me handily in the first round, so that meant the end of my racing season. But a great racing season it was, and the experiences I had throughout the season, whether they were on the water, during training, on the erg, or during the races themselves, it was a big season and a great learning opportunity, and I now have a much better idea of where I have to go to get faster and faster. And that is it for the highlights of the previous season. Hopefully you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed partaking in said season. It also means it's the end of the first episode of season 7 on this gorgeous evening here at Strathclyde Country Park. Unfortunately, we can't get on this glass water as the park is now shut. But hopefully throughout the season we will have some lovely glass to go try and cut at some stage. But as always, Yam Squad, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell to make sure you are notified when the next episode of season 7 does come out. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Hit the dislike button if you didn't enjoy the video. But if you did dislike it, let me know in the comments below why not. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.